I have to apologize to the royal family for my granddaughter. Lady Fermoy did not forgive weaknesses to herself, her daughter, or her granddaughter. Like her friend, the Dowager Queen Elizabeth, Lady Fermoy put above all the ability to make a good face at a bad game, as well as the rule not to bring any problems to the public. At first, she was disappointed by her own daughter, and then by her granddaughter. But Diana was so close to the crown. What a success for the family and the family name. Ruth was born on October 2, 1908 at the family estate of the Gill family, Dalhebity House in Scotland. Since childhood, she has absorbed aristocratic manners and rules of conduct. Her musical talent was revealed early. Ruth was sent to study at the Paris Conservatory, where her teacher was Alfred Cortot himself. But as befits an aristocratic heiress, a spouse was found for Ruth Gill. The bride and groom met at a reception at Dalhebity House, danced together a couple of times. That was enough. Both of them had noble origins, and their families had a good reputation. Maurice Roch, the fourth Baron of Fermoy, has already turned 46, and the bride is 23. But the age difference did not bother anyone. It was a traditional marriage, a mutually beneficial agreement between families. After the wedding, Ruth gave up music lessons and devoted herself to her family. Now she was only playing for the entertainment of the guests. Ruth gave birth to 3 children. In addition, Lady Fermoy took an active part in social life. The Duke of York's family often spent weekends near Baron Fermoy's estate. They hunted and spent evenings together. The Duchess of York became very friendly with Ruth, and when her husband became king, she brought him closer to her and made him first a maid of honor and then a lady of the bedchamber, which was a very honorable position, because Ruth had the right to enter the royal bedroom. Then she became a maid and was in charge of the wardrobe, a position she held for 33 years. The Gill, Roch, and Bowes-Lyons families were connected by an old acquaintance and some kinship. Before Lady Fermoy's eyes, Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret grew up. The monarchy met its crisis, which further confirmed her that one should always follow the rules and preserve dignity, no matter what happens. When her daughter Frances married John Spencer, Ruth was elated. This marriage promised the girl a position in society, wealth, and proximity to the royal family. But it soon turned out that this was not enough for Frances. Her husband had a heavy hand, and when girls were born one by one in the family, the relationship reached a critical state altogether. Frances finally gave birth to a boy. It seemed that everything should be fine now. But when Charles Spencer was only 3 years old, his mother left home. Frances simply could no longer tolerate her husband's rudeness and indifference, his constant nagging and infidelity. By this time, she had already had an affair with Peter Shand Kidd, for whom the mother of the family left everything and put an end to her reputation forever. The trial for the children has begun. John Spencer demanded sole custody of his daughters Sarah, Jane, and Diana, and his son Charles. He wanted to forbid his mother to see them and to influence their upbringing in any way. At the same time, the children's opinion was completely ignored, and the girls suffered a lot without their mother. Charles was only 3. He was less affected by this scandal. In this situation, Ruth Fermoy sided with John Spencer. She testified against her daughter, which allowed her to be deprived of custody rights. What guided the mother? The unshakable certainty that the daughter had made an unacceptable mistake. Whatever the marriage, you need to keep at least the appearance. At the same time, the grandmother was least concerned about the feelings of the children. For her, it was important that Frances, for whom she had arranged such a brilliant marriage, dared to break it off. Princess Diana. After her husband's death, Ruth resumed her music studies and even founded the King's Lynn Festival. What hindered her before that? A married woman was not supposed to expose herself. When the granddaughters grew up, Baroness Fermoy made every effort to ensure that they met with the Prince of Wales as often as possible in an informal setting. In the end, a spark flickered between Prince Charles and Sarah Spencer. The newspapers started calling her the prince's bride and even the future queen. According to Ruth, everything was going well, until her granddaughter gave out to journalists that she didn't care whether she married a prince or a minor, and she was connected with the Prince of Wales only by platonic feelings. They were friends, and if a romantic prince who easily loses his head, asked for her hand, Sarah, I would have refused. It was the failure of all Baroness Fermoy's aspirations. He and the Queen Mother had already made such a wonderful plan, dreamed of how they would become related. They understood each other so well. But there were also other Spencer girls. It was decided to introduce Prince Charles to Earl Spencer's youngest daughter, Diana. She was very young, which means you can make anything out of this plasticine. Elizabeth Ballsland supported this idea. Moreover, her grandson began to pay too much attention to a certain Camilla Parker Bowles, known for her frivolous reputation. Young Diana seemed like the perfect candidate. She's fast, quiet, and very sweet. The Dowager Queen Elizabeth was delighted, and Prince Charles began to be pushed towards this girl. Very soon, his father announced without hinting that Charles should propose. Before the wedding, Grandma told Diana that she should be ready. The royal family has a special sense of humor and a special relationship. It will be very difficult for her, so it's worth weighing everything up. And when this marriage began to fall apart, Baroness Fermoy apologized to Queen Elizabeth II. During the divorce of Diana and Charles, Baroness Fermoy took the side of the royal family. For Ruth Fermoy, the breakup of Diana's relationship with Prince Charles was not the only tragedy. Her son, the 5th Lord Fermoy, committed suicide in 1984 due to depression, and her daughter Mary's ex-husband, MP Sir Anthony Berry, died in an explosion at a hotel in Brighton the same year. Ruth Fermoy was appointed a Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order in June 1966 and a Dame Commander of the Royal Victorian Order in June 1979. Princess Diana kept in touch with her mother, but avoided her grandmother. Baroness Fermoy died in 1993 at the age of 84 and did not learn about the tragic death of her granddaughter. It was reported that she had not spoken to Diana at the time of her death. Baroness Fermoy was also saddened that Diana had put her personal life on public display. Offended by her granddaughter, Ruth Fermoy stopped talking to Diana. She believed that Diana should have tolerated her husband's infidelities and be a loving wife in public. Diana was cool to her maternal grandmother, but according to her, she treated Lady Cynthia, her paternal grandmother, with more warmth. Diana believed that she was more like Cynthia in appearance and character than Ruth Fermoy. Grandma's marriage was essentially a nightmare, but she married her grandfather for convenience and lived knowing full well about the side relationships and even the children of her husband, wrote Lady Diana.